does in our body is it converts chemical energy into cellular energy. Now, really quick, does anybody remember what that chemical energy is and what that cellular energy is? Just put it in the chat, or I don't. If you think you remember what that is, I would like to know. Just a quick little glucose, okay? And what do we convert it into?
Chemical energy is stored energy. Very good, in glucose. And then the more useful energy that's used, that's used to make things happen in the cell, comes from a very, very popular molecule, ATP, which I hope you guys have a lot of this morning, so you're not lagging behind. ATP gives you energy, just like Red Bull.
ATP does? Gives you. Look at this little guy lifting right here. Pretty soon he's gonna have all the energy in the world. So remember, how do we get energy from ATP? It's stored in the bonds, and specifically the last two phosphates. So it's stored right here between the second and third phosphate, and that's where the energy. It's a loose connection, so it's easily broken, and it's like pow, release energy. Ms. Murdoch, would you put the website for Andrew and the code in the chat for him?
Oh. Well, okay, so it's join. Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, I got it.
Sorry. All right, remember how do our cells get energy? Oh, I might have just told you if you were paying attention. Let's see, we got any responses? No responses. No responses! 2, 3. There you guys go. There you go, Andrew, if you need it, buddy. Sorry, thank you, Ms. Murdoch. 8 responses. Let's see what we have. From ATP when it loses the phosphate. Be careful.
Very good. Very good.
Good. Excellent, guys. Good, 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 good. So what can our cells do with that energy? Think about this. Let me see some responses in just a second. I got 8 of you. 9 people are alive. 9, there's 10. There's 10 pulses in this group. Congratulations for those doing the cellular respiration and clicking and combining answers. All of the above, movement of a sperm's flagella, chromosomes being pulled apart, active transport, all of those things, guys, anything. My mouth moving has a lot of mitochondria around it for the cellular respiration. It's got a lot more than most areas, probably. Overview of cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is the process of breaking down food molecules, chemical energy, to release ATP in or near the mitochondria. And you got to be careful. I say near specifically because a portion of this process occurs right outside the mitochondria, and the other portions happen within the mitochondria. So cellular respiration equals, what cell organelle does this aerobic respiration? And this is the one where you guys go, oh, I know what this cell does. It's this. And I'm like, no, we're not going to talk about it like that anymore. Very elementary term. Some of you may call it the powerhouse of the cell. You're like, oh, it's the powerhouse of the cell. And in middle school and elementary school, yes. Now I want you to know it's the site of cellular respiration. Much more sophisticated.
Yes,
will the pear deck be available?
I'll post a copy of it. Yes, don't worry.
And my video, and Ms. Murdoch put the video up there too, Rami. And I'll sign CD copies of it later for you. Let me see responses. Mitochondria, yes. Mitochondria, guys, C. Mitochondria is where site of cellular respiration. Aerobic cellular respiration. We'll get more into the other parts of it later. So here's the formula. We got our glucose. We got C6H12O6. We got oxygen, 6 O2s. And then from that yields energy, 36 ATP, 6 H2Os, and 6 CO2s. So what we have here is the formula. Now, you may be looking at the front of it and be like, well, Mr. Richard, Ms. Murdoch, there's 6 in front of the O2, and then there's a 6 in front of the H2O, and then a 6 in front of CO2. Oh, there's a lot of numbers there. And that's something you're going to learn about later, but that's balancing the equation. Because remember how we said you can't create or destroy anything? You need to transfer it, but it has to have certain amounts for it all to work, and it has to be balanced. If I start with this much over here, I have to end with the same amount over here, just in a different combination. And that's why that 6 is there. And that's why there's 6s there.
So what you have to look at, you see that tiny white arrow that's right in front of the energy word there? Okay, that arrow represents that there is a chemical reaction happening, meaning that the things on the left side of that white arrow, those atoms, the O's and the H's and the C's, are all being rearranged into different molecules that are on the right side of the arrow. See? So that glucose and oxygen are molecules that are going through a change. That white arrow represents a change. And they're all being rearranged into water and carbon dioxide. So if you have a glucose molecule over here and it's got 6 carbons in it, then everything that's on the right side of the arrow also has to have 6 carbons, because carbons didn't just disappear, they got rearranged into carbon dioxide molecules. And same with hydrogens and the oxygens. So you'll find that there's 12 hydrogens over here. If you count all the hydrogens over here, there's still 12 of them, because those 6 water molecules have 2 hydrogens each. That makes 12 hydrogens. Okay. And you won't have to worry about that until really next year when you take chemistry. They're gonna be asking you to pay more attention to that, to chemical reactions. But I just want you to know what these numbers mean so you don't get confused about them. Nice job.
Good job. All right. So drag the red dot to the molecule that makes the process aerobic respiration. So think about this. If it's aerobic respiration, you need what? Oh, we didn't really talk about it a second ago, but let's see what you know. Let's see if you know this. Take a chance. I'll say only 8 of you are taking a chance. So we have 8 risk takers here. 9 risk takers, 10. Listen, I didn't get a vaccine for you not to take a risk. 13 of you? Okay. I'll give it with 13. The oxygen, yes! Oxygen is what makes it aerobic. On the left side here, because of that oxygen alone makes it aerobic. Think about aerobics. Aerobics, you're doing aerobic exercise, like, I'm breathing, I'm getting some oxygen. Aerobics, you need that oxygen. So when you have oxygen present in cellular respiration, it's called aerobic respiration.
So don't get confused, because there are some oxygens in the other molecules, aren't there? But what really makes something aerobic is gaseous oxygen that's either dissolved in water or around the air around us. The O2 molecules, that is molecular oxygen. And that's what really drives aerobic respiration.
All right, next. So the 2 types of cellular respiration are aerobic, like we said, which requires oxygen, and then anaerobic, without oxygen. The AN means without or no. And that's something you could learn for, like, when you're taking SATs or learning something. If you had a prefix AN, it means without or not or no. So without oxygen is anaerobic. The steps of aerobic respiration, and this is the one we're going to talk about today, is just aerobic respiration, guys. So that's all we're going to talk about today. So that means oxygen is going to be present all day today. Even while I'm talking, I got to breathe and get this oxygen. There's 3 steps involved in aerobic respiration. First step is glycolysis. The second step is the Krebs cycle, or the citric acid cycle. And the third step, electron transport chain. Sometimes they call it ETC for short, but it's electron transport chain. Those are the 3 steps: glycolysis, Krebs cycle, electron transport chain. And it happens in that order, ladies and germs. Look at this knowledge you're getting. And consider it free knowledge today. Put it on a bill. Or put it on the house. It's pro bono. So step 1, glycolysis. Glyco, sugar, and lysis means to split. So guess what we're splitting? What do you think we're splitting? What molecule do you think we're splitting here? If we're talking about sugar to break, what molecule do you think that we're involved in cellular respiration do you think is being split now? You can put it in the chat. See if somebody thinks about that. Think about that for a second. What sugar molecule? I wonder. Yes, Rami! Glucose. Thank you. Yes, Rami, glucose. This is the stage where glucose is, pow, snapped in two. Oh, sorry, Miss Murdoch. Now let's see if you know the response, what I just said. It doesn't hurt. See if they're paying attention and revert it back. So what happens during glycolysis, ladies and gentlemen? Well, Mr. Richard, a lot of stuff happens during glycolysis. You see, you got glycol and then cis, and you know, glycolysis is. What else would it do? Well, you're right, Festus. It does glycolysis. Wonder if it glycolizes. Let's see what we got. 10 of you responding. Breaking sugar molecules into little bits. Excelente. Excelente. Breaking fat molecules. Breaking bad molecules. Breaking bad. Get it? Breaking bad molecules.
That was my husband's idea.
Oh, Daryl. He's a good man.
He is. He comes up with fun stuff.
Oh, he is a hoot. When I saw you perform at the planetarium, man, he is like a one-man stand-up routine in between sets.
Yep.
He was ripping and joking and jiving with everybody. I was like, ooh, Daryl. All right.
Yep, that's
sorry.
Man.
So where does aerobic respiration take place? It actually happens in 2 spots. What? Wow. See what I did there?
I got that.
Wow. It's like W's, and my mouth is the O. Wow. 2 spots it takes place in. Glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm. That's the first step. And that occurs right outside the mitochondria and cytoplasm. Then the Krebs cycle and electron transport chain take place inside the mitochondria. And there's a reason for this.
Yeah, there's a lot of advanced chemistry here that you're not going to need to worry about. When you take AP biology with me in 3 years, we'll learn a lot more detail. But right now, you just need to know simple locations. Okay?
Yeah. We're not going to go into that. That's. Oof. I heard her talking about that one day, and I was like, "Are you speaking English?"
It gets pretty complex. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you
That's
know,
all right.
pyruvate, acetyl-CoAs, enzymes, and you know. Oh, this. I'm like, oh, dear Lord.
It's really all about electron hydrogen flow, and that's a lot of it's a lot more detail than you guys need for now. You can learn that later.
I got a third of you responding to me. A third of you are alive right now. A third.
Not enough ATP. Breathe in some oxygen. Get that aerobic respiration going.
Come on. Come on. Respond. I will guilt you into responding. 12 of you. Probably Pedro's not responding. He's like, no, I shall not respond to you.
You have refusals.
Huh? It happens in the cytoplasm. Very good. First step happens in the cytoplasm. Glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm. Excellent, excellent. Thank you for taking the chance, everybody. I appreciate it. Be sure to tip your waitresses and waiters. All right, so glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm. Glucose breaks down or splits to form 2 pyruvates, 3 carbons each. So basically it splits it in half, forms 2 pyruvates. At this point, 2 ATP molecules are made and 2 NADH. What is NADH? It's just an electron carrier. It's don't have to worry much about it. Just know it's an electron carrier, and that's about all for now. If you go to AP, that's where you'll get more into NADPH and NADH plus. Don't worry about it right now. Just know that it's an electron carrier. So the products, pyruvate, NADH, and ATP. However, we've only made 2 ATP at this point. That is not a lot.
That's not a lot. If you're a little bacteria cell, if you're a bacteria cell or you're a yeast cell and you're really small, you can get by with this. And that's good because a lot of bacteria and yeast actually can't do the next aerobic steps. So glycolysis is found in every cell, not just our cells, and part of this big aerobic process, but it's also the first step for what yeast cells do without any oxygen when they don't use oxygen. And they only get 2 little ATP per glucose, which is fine if you're small. But if you're a big complicated organism like us, we need to go to the next steps. But let's
wee yeasties. Oh, those wee yeasties, all they need is those 2 ATPs. A wee yeast or a wee bacteria. All right, so drag a red dot to the reactants and a green dot to the products. So think about it. What are reactants? What are products? Come on, people. Let's make it look like it was Christmas in here with these green and reds. Red to reactant, green to product. Yes! Brilliant! Brilliant! Reactants are on the left. The red guys on the right here are your products, your 2 pyruvates. It's like snapped it in half, like pow!
Nice job, guys. Anything on the left of the arrow is always going to be a reactant, no matter how complicated the reaction is. Left side is reactant, ingredients, right, or starting molecules. Right side is products. What ends up at the end is on the right side. Excellent job.
Krebs cycle, citric acid cycle, location, mitochondria. What happens? After pyruvates are converted, acetyl-CoA A is used to build citric acid, which is just a compound, a carbon compound, which is broken down in many steps and CO2 is released. NADH and FADH are given high energy electrons during this reaction. So this is where these electron carriers start getting these electrons, and they're going to bring them to the next stage. And the products during this point are CO2, ATP, NADH, FADH. And again, we've only made 2 ATP. So does anybody, how many ATP have we made total so far? Does anybody know? How many have we made? Put in that chat there. 4. Very good, Rami, number 2.
Nice job. Nice job. Still don't have enough to run a human brain, let me tell you that. Human brains are expensive.
My brain runs on only 1 ATP, so we got enough for me.
You're that efficient, huh?
Yeah. Well, you just see my brain has that little thing that dips into the water and dips back out, and dips back into the water and dips back out.
What?
You never see those little toy things that just they hit the water and they bounce back out?
Oh, okay. You're comparing your brain to a little sponge toy?
Yes.
Okay. That's an interesting metaphor.
I guess.
Oh, sister's having problems.
Cycle is the Krebs cycle. What are the products of the Krebs cycle? What are the products?
Let the arrows guide you, guys. Let the arrows guide you, right? TCA cycle is the same as Krebs cycle. So that TCA, I wish they wouldn't call it that. It's just the Krebs cycle, okay? So look at the arrows coming off of it. So what are going to be the products there? Follow the arrows. A lot of these diagrams are about following arrows. And you're correct if you said carbon dioxide, but actually all of them are correct. And I know that's hard to see, but you can see the NADH is actually coming off of it too, as you see the little arrow there, and so is the ATP. Those are also products of the Krebs cycle. So all three of those things are actually coming off of it.
And what happens is
carbon dioxide, because that's a very clear product. I think that is.
And you see this NAD goes in. What this arrow shows is NAD going in and coming out as NADH. It's sort of like what happens. Remember how we talked about the formation of ATP? It's a different molecule, but the same thought happens. It gets recharged and added on these H's.
Yeah, ATP cycle, right? So the ATPs are picking up phosphates from the Krebs cycle. The NADs are picking up electrons.
Yep. There you go. Good job, guys. Excellent.
Nice job.
So
I know that's
step 3, electron transport chain. Huh? Step 3, electron transport chain. We are still in the mitochondria, ladies and gentlemen. What happens? NADH and FADH, they have these electrons on them. Like, what do we do with these electrons? Oh, we got to give them to a chain of special enzymes that are used to convert ADP into ATP. So they bring these electrons in. They're like, oh, we got this energy. We got the energy. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. So they bring it in, and then ADP is in, and oxygen is necessary as an electron receptor when the process is finished. And at this stage, they start charging up and making a bunch of ATP. And water as well as water is basically a waste product of it, but because the point of this is to make ATP. So, but it's still a product, regardless. It's water and ATP, but at this stage, you've made 32 ATP. That's a lot of ATP for one molecule. Ooh. One molecule.
Yeah, the electron transport chain is the big payoff stage. That's where you wind up making a lot of ATP. And really what's driving that are the electrons that the NADHs are picking up from the food molecules. And if that's a lot to understand, don't worry about it. If you know, though, that the ETC, the electron transport chain, is where most of the ATP comes from, and that it happens in the mitochondria, you pretty much have what you need to know. Ultimately, all that ATP came from breaking down the glucose in the first place. Without the glucose food molecule coming in, you couldn't have gotten anything out of it.
I actually had Mr. Ecker, Miss Murdoch, calculated how many glucose molecules are in a salad for me, like a serving size salad.
Oh, really?
We did the whole moliere thing about it because one of my kids in the other class.
You would have picked one of your protein shakes or something, or maybe piece of chocolate cake. Piece of chocolate cake.
I had to tell him how much servings. I had to tell him how much servings, and then he figured out I guess is it called the stoichiometry or whatever? He did the whole math. He came back to me he made his chemistry class do it to figure out how many moles of glucose was in salad. It was interesting.
Yeah, you'd have to make some assumptions there. There's an awful lot of cellulose in salad, so I don't know how you account for that. But that's an interesting problem.
Yeah, he did it with his chemistry class.
It's really tough to digest cellulose.
Yeah. Oh, cellulose. Whew. All right. So drag a red dot to the molecules. Sorry, my thing is blocking it a little. That come from the Krebs cycle. So drag a red. Ooh, what the heck? Ooh.
You okay?
Yeah, something's shrieking outside, like some machine. Like it sounded like
Oh, you got construction work outside, yeah.
So which red dots come from the Krebs cycle? Yes! Oh, you guys, that's 3 of you? Oh, no, this is the circle one. Yes, 3. Up, yep. We got 4, 5, 6 of you, 6 of you. All right, there's a little red dot. Oh, circled it. Okay. I like it. Thank you all. Thank you for participating. I appreciate it. All right, now drag a red dot to the most. It always blocks it on my screen when I'm presenting. So I gotta let it stop for a second. Drag a red dot to the most important products of the ETC. What is the most important thing that is made out of this?
Think in terms of what's going to be the most useful thing for the cell.
Let's see. Nobody said any. No responses. Ooh, I see a little red dot here by the ATP. ATP, not the oxygen. Oxygen isn't what's made.
Right. Yeah. Actually, oxygen gets consumed, right?
Yeah.
Oxygen comes
Although
in.
it looks like it with the arrow. I get what you mean with the arrow pointing out there, but
yeah.
What happens is the oxygen comes
in. It
in.
may look like a product when it actually isn't. Oxygen is coming in and taking those electrons and turning them into water molecules. Yeah. And water is useful, but it's not as useful as something else. What's the most useful thing for the cell? The ATP is what, yeah, there you go. The ATP is the most useful thing coming out of all this for the cell. Because ATP can make all kinds of things in the cell happen. Active transport, flagella beating, muscle fiber contraction, all those things. So it's the ATP, the most useful thing coming out of this.
All right, drag a red dot to the part of this that makes it an aerobic respiration. Aerobic, remember, what makes something aerobic? It has something.
There's that word again. Same word as we talked about in the beginning.
It's the children in my basement, Tabasum. Is that what you said for the screeching noise? Shh, don't tell about
I commiserate with you so much. I really do. Hard to find a nice quiet place for yourself sometimes, isn't it?
Oh, no, she's talking about the screeching I had over here. She says it's the children in the basement. Yes, I have the children in the basement. They do lots of work for me. I make them with their little hands. They can make things with their little hands.
That mustache just really fits with that whole evil mystique going on.
Oh, it does. My wife hates it. She absolutely does.
Ooh, you just need a black top hat and a cape with that mustache.
Yeah.
Oh yes, they're circling the oxygens. Yay! Awesome. You guys are awesome. That's it. So it's the oxygen again that makes the process aerobic. And in fact, the oxygen doesn't come into the system, into the process, until the very last step, at the very end. But if it's not there, the whole process stops. All that ATP made to help your brain work, help your heart beat, all those things, it will stop getting made if your oxygen is cut off, right? That makes sense. If you know, I mean, you know, without knowing anything about this process, what happens to a person or any animal if suddenly they don't have any oxygen? You suffocate, right? Well, the reason why you die without oxygen is this right here, is because that oxygen is catching those electrons, getting them out of the way, so those ATPs can continue to be made. Those ATPs are life-giving molecules. They keep your cells running, particularly your brain cells and your muscle cells especially. Your heart can't beat if the ATP is not making those contractions happen. Your brain can't work if the ATP isn't making those neurons fire their impulses. So there's the connection, guys. Is that the end of the? Yep, yeah. Okay, that's it.
So, guys, we'll give you a break. Got to tell you a quick story though first, Miss Murdoch. So, we did my family Christmas on Sunday because you know we saw hers at Christmas and we had to space it out for 2 weeks. See mine.
Yeah.
You know, make sure you're all quarantined so before we get together. So we were playing Monopoly, and I had 3 railroads, and I had tried to make. I wanted the 4th railroad and something else, and my wife, who hates the mustache, I looked at her and I go, if you give me that 4th railroad, Pennsylvania, and that utility, I will shave my mustache tonight. And everybody at the table goes, ooh. Ooh. And she goes, no. And she hates it that much, the mustache, but she would win that much to beat me that she was willing to have.
Wow. So your wife has some competitive spirit then, huh?
Yeah. I was like, you could have got this today.
Takes her Monopoly seriously. All right.
All I wanted was all 4 railroads. Is there something hard to ask for? No.
Hey, the railroads, I always like the railroads because you can, that's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? Okay,
Yep.
so I want you to take a break. I am going to play a really cool glycolysis rap for you. But I want you to go and get a drink of water, take a break away from your screen, and listen to Mr. W and his glycolysis rap. If I can find it.
Grammarly does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can find...
Hey, sugar. Come on over here, sweetie. Let's break it down. Glycolysis is a series of reactions, enzymatic actions, energy transactions. Takes glucose, a molecule so sugary, breaks it down for NADH and ATP. It's an anaerobic cytoplasmic pathway that amazes, organized easily in 3 phases: investment, cleavage, and energy harvest. Tell me later which one you like best. Investment, activation, energy supplied. Cleavage, our 6 carbon sugar divides. Harvest, we get our energy yield. So intricate, keep your eyes peeled. Glycolysis. Come on, sugar, for the breakdown. For the breakdown. Investments, like match. That energy you put in makes the fire catch. For glycolysis, investments to ATPs, which act as activation energy. Enzymes take phosphates from ATPs, jam them on a glucose, rearranging it to fructose, leaving fructose 1,6-bisphosphate on the table with 2 phosphates. It's highly unstable, moving us to the second phase, the cleaving of fructose bisphosphate, because glycolysis means splitting sugar, you can see. Cleavage yields 2 molecules with carbons 3. One is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate G3P. It continues on our pathway broken down for energy, but the second one, an enzyme, will immediately convert into a second G3P. Glycolysis. Come on, sugar, for the breakdown. For the breakdown. Phase G3P gets rearranged and oxidized by an enzymatic assembly line that harvests energy from each G3P, 1 NADH and 2 ATPs. Double this yield for G3P to 2 NADH and ATPs. That's the gross yield for every glucose in. A generous accounting of glycolysis' win, but 2 ATPs are invested in phase 1, so your net just 2 you can use to jump or run. Put 2 in, 4 out, your net gain is 2 ATPs that you can use. If that doesn't seem like very much, it's cause it ain't. There's tons of energy left in pyruvate. The 2,3 carbon molecules we're left with at the end, and what happens to pyruvate's going to depend on the metabolic pathway where pyruvate set. If it's anaerobic, it'll be fermented, but in aerobic cells, pyruvate's termination will be the Krebs cycle and total oxidation. Glycolysis. Come on, sugar, for the breakdown. For the breakdown. Glycolysis starts with investment of 2 ATPs to the glucose that we started with. The product is cleaved into 2 G3Ps from which the cell harvests NADH and ATPs. This anaerobic pathway is respiration's first phase, billions of years old, evolved in ancient days before O2 accumulated in the seas. Before eukaryotic cells arrived on the scene, it's everywhere, ubiquitous in every organism. Bacteria, sequoia tree, no matter your metabolism, happens in the cytoplasm, doesn't need no organelles. You want to find glycolysis? Look in any cell. Glycolysis. Come on, sugar, for the breakdown. For the breakdown. Glycolysis. Come on, sugar, for the breakdown. For the breakdown.
Monster Math presents addition.
All right. All right. Sorry about that, guys. I just had to go over. Ms. Murdoch was out for a second, so I want to turn it off. What we're going to do now is we have 2 ed puzzles where you can log on. I turned yours off, Ms. Murdoch, just in case something popped on that shouldn't have been popping on. Okay, so it was glycolysis, Sydney. Okay, what we are going to do right now is I'm making breakout rooms. You can go in. We're going to take. I can't speak. We are going to do ed puzzles. You have one on the Amoeba Sisters Aerobic Respiration, and if you didn't finish the ed puzzle on ATP, which is right down there, we got Miss Murdoch. Look at her; she's so brilliant. She's showing us right now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put you in group. I'll put you in breakout groups where you can work quietly. You can work with classmates. You can come ask me questions.